넘어서도 Matthew chapter 13. That same day, Yah-Usha went out of the house and sat down by the lake. But such a large crowd gathered around him that he got into a boat and sat there while the crowd stood on the shore. He told them many things in parables. A farmer went out to sow his seed. As he sowed, some seed fell alongside the path, and the birds came and ate it up. Other seed fell on rocky patches where there was not much soil. It sprouted quickly because the soil was shallow, but when the sun had risen, the young plants were scorched, and since their roots were not deep, they dried up. Other seed fell among thorns, which grew up and choked the plant. But others fell into rich soil and produced grain, 100 or 60 or 30 times as much as had been sown. Those who have ears, let them hear. Then the Talmudim came and asked Yah-Usha, "Why are you speaking to them in parables?" He answered, "Because it has been given to you to know the secrets of the kingdom of heaven, but it has not been given to them. For anyone who has something will be given more, so that he will have plenty. But from anyone who has nothing, even what he does have will be taken away. Here is why I speak to them in parables. They look without seeing and listen without hearing or understanding. That is in them is fulfilled the prophecy of Yeshayahu, which says, 'You will keep on hearing but never understand, and keep on seeing but never perceive, because the heart of this people has become dull. With their ears they barely hear, with their eyes they have closed, and their eyes they have closed, so as not to see with their eyes, hear with their ears, understand with their heart, and do teshuvah, so I could heal them.' But you, how blessed are your eyes because they see, and your ears because they hear. Yes, indeed, I tell you that many a prophet and many a tzaddik long to see the things you are seeing, but did not see them, and to hear the things you are hearing, but did not hear them. So listen to what the parable of the sword means. Whoever hears the message about the kingdom, but doesn't understand it, is like the seed sown along the path. The evil one comes and seizes what was sown in his heart. The seed sown on rocky ground is like a person who hears the message and accepts it with joy at once, but has no root in himself. So he stays on for a while, but as soon as some trouble or persecution arises on account of the message, he immediately falls away. Now the seed sown among thorns stands for someone who hears the message, but it is choked by the worries of the world and the deceitful glamour of wealth, so that it produces nothing. However, what was sown on rich soil is the one who hears the message and understands it. Such a person will surely bear fruit, 100 or 60 or 30 times what was sown. Yah-Usha put before them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like a man who sowed good seed in his field. But while people were sleeping, his enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat, then went away. When the wheat sprouted and formed heads of grain, the weeds also appeared. The owner's servants came to him and said, 'Sir, didn't you sow good seed in your field? Where have the weeds come from?' He answered, 'An enemy has done this.' The servants asked him, 'Then do you want us to go and pull them up?' But he said, 'No, because if you pull up the weeds, you might uproot some of the wheat at the same time. Let them both grow together until the harvest, and at harvest time I will tell the reapers to collect the weeds first and tie them in bundles to be burned, but to gather the wheat into my barn.'" Yah-Usha put before them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed, which a man takes and sows in his field. It is the smallest of all seeds, but when it grows up, it is larger than any garden plant and becomes a tree, so that the birds flying about come and nest in its branches. And he told them yet another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like yeast that a woman took and mixed with a bushel of flour, then waited until the whole batch of dough rose. All these things Yah-Usha said to the crowds in parables. Indeed, he said nothing to them without using a parable. This was to fulfill what had been spoken through the prophet. "I will open my mouth in parables. I will say what has been hidden since the creation of the universe." Then he left the crowds and went into the house. His Talmudim approached him and said, "Explain to us the parable of the weeds in the field." He answered, "The one who sows the good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world. As for the good seed, these are the people who belong to the kingdom, and the weeds are the people who belong to the evil one. The enemy who sows them is the adversary. The harvest is the end of the age, and the harvesters are angels. Just as the weeds are collected and burnt up in the fire, so will it be at the end of the age. The Son of Man will send forth his angels, and they will collect out of his kingdom all the things that cause people to sin, and all the people who are far from Torah. And they will throw them into the fiery furnace, where people will wail and grind their teeth. Then the righteous will shine forth like the sun in the kingdom of their Father. Whoever has ears, let him hear. The kingdom of heaven is like a treasure hidden in a field. A man found it, hid it again. Then in great joy went and sold everything he owned and bought that field. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant on the lookout for fine pearls. On finding one very valuable pearl, he went away, sold everything he owned and bought it. Once more, the kingdom of heaven is like a net thrown into the lake that caught all kinds of fish. When it was full, the fishermen brought the net up onto the shore, sat down and collected the good fish in baskets, but threw the bad fish away. So it will be at the close of the age. The angels will go forth and separate the evil people from among the righteous, and throw them into the fiery furnace, where they will wail and grind their teeth. Have you understood all these things? Yes, they answered. He said to them, So then, every Torah teacher who has been made into a Talmud for the kingdom of heaven is like the owner of a home who brings out of his storage room both new things and old. When Yah-Usha had finished these parables, he left and went to his hometown. There he taught them in their synagogue in a way that astounded them, so that they asked, Where do this man's wisdom and miracles come from? Isn't he the carpenter's son? Isn't his mother called Miriam? And his brothers Yaakov, Yosef, Shimon, and Yehudah? And his sisters, aren't they all with us? So where does he get all this? And they took offense at him. But Yah-Usha said to them, The only place people don't respect a prophet in his hometown and in his own house. And he did few miracles there because of their lack of trust. I'm being harassed. That's kind of exciting. Being harassed while you're reading the Bible, that's pretty cool actually. Matthew chapter 14. Around that time, Herod, the original governor, heard of the fame of Yah-Usha and said to his attendants, This must be Yochanan the Immerser. He has been raised from the dead. That is why these miraculous powers are at work in him. For Herod had arrested Yochanan, put him in chains and thrown him in prison because of Herodias, the wife of his brother Philip. Since Yochanan had told Herod, It violates the Torah for you to have her as your wife. Herod had wanted to put Yochanan to death, but he was afraid of the people, in whose eyes Yochanan was a prophet. However, at Herod's birthday celebration, Herodias' daughter danced before the company and pleased Herod so much that he promised with an oath to give her whatever she asked. Prompted by her mother, she said, Give me here on a platter the head of Yochanan the Immerser. The king became deeply upset, but out of regard for the oaths he had sworn before his dinner guests, he ordered that her wish be granted, and sent and had Yochanan beheaded in prison. The head was brought on a platter to the girl, and she gave it to her mother. Yochanan's Talmidim came, took the body and buried it. Then they went and told Yah-Usha. On hearing about this, Yah-Usha left in a boat to be by himself in the wilderness. But the people learned of it and followed him from the towns by land. So when he came ashore, he saw a huge crowd, and filled with compassion for them, he healed those of them who were sick. As evening approached, the Talmidim came to him and said, This is a remote place and it's getting late. Send the crowds away so that they can go and buy food for themselves in the villages. But Yah-Usha replied, They don't need to go away. Give them something to eat yourselves. All we have with us, they said, is 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. He said, Bring them here to me. After instructing the crowds to sit down on the grass, he took the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, and looking up toward heaven, made a barakah. Then he broke the loaves and gave them to the Talmidim, who gave them to the crowds. They all ate as much as they wanted, and they took up 12 baskets full of the pieces left over. Those eating numbered about 5,000 men, plus women and children. Immediately he had the Talmidim get in the boat and go on ahead of him to the other side, while he sent the crowds away. After he had sent the crowds away, he went up into the hills by himself to pray. Night came on, and he was there alone. But by this time the boat was several miles from shore, battling a rough sea and a headwind. Around 4 o'clock in the morning he came toward them, walking on the lake. When the Talmidim saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. "It's a ghost," they said, and screamed with fear. But at once Yah-Usha spoke to them. "Courage," he said. "It is I. Stop being afraid." Then Kepha called to him. "Lord, if it's really you, tell me to come to you on the water." "Come," he said. So Kepha got out of the boat and walked on the water toward Yah-Usha. But when he saw the wind, he became afraid, and as he began to sink, he yelled, "Lord, save me." Yah-Usha immediately stretched out his hand, took hold of him, and said to him, "Such little trust, why did you doubt?" As they went up into the boat, the wind ceased. The men in the boat fell down before him and exclaimed, "You really are God's son." Having made the crossing, they landed at Ginosar. When the people of the place recognized him, they sent word throughout the neighborhood and brought him everyone who was ill. They begged him that the sick people might only touch the tzitzit on his robe, and all who touched it were completely healed. Matthew chapter 15. Then some Parashim and Torah teachers from Yerushalayim came to Yah-Usha and asked him, "Why is it that your Talmidim break the tradition of the elders? They don't do netilat yadayim before they eat." He answered, "Indeed, why do you break the command of God by your tradition? For God said, 'Honor your father and mother,' and anyone who curses his father or mother must be put to death. But you say, if anyone says to his father or mother, 'I have promised to give to God what I might have used to help you,' then he is rid of his duty to honor his father or mother. Thus by your tradition you make null and void the word of God. You hypocrites, Yeshayahu was right when he prophesied about you. These people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far away from me. Their worship of me is useless, because they teach man-made rules as if they were doctrines." Then he called the crowd to him and said, "Listen and understand this. What makes a person unclean is not what goes into his mouth. Rather, what comes out of his mouth, that is what makes him unclean." The Talmidim came to him and said, "Do you know that the Parashim were offended by what you said?" He replied, "Every plant that my Father in heaven has not planted will be pulled up by the roots. Let them be. They are blind guides. When a blind man guides another blind man, both will fall in a pit." Kepha said to him, "Explain the parable to us." So he said, "Don't you understand even now? Don't you see that anything that enters the mouth goes into the stomach and passes out into the latrine? But what comes out of your mouth is actually coming from your heart, and that is what makes a person unclean. For out of the heart come forth wicked thoughts, murder, adultery, and other kinds of sexual immorality, theft, lies, slanders. These are what really make a person unclean. But eating without doing netilat yadayim does not make a person unclean." Yah-Usha left that place and went off to the region of Jor and Sidon. A woman from Canaan who was living there came to him, pleading, "Sir, have pity on me, son of David. My daughter is cruelly held under the power of demons." But Yah-Usha did not say a word to her. Then his Talmidim came to him and urged him, "Send her away, because she is following us and keeps pestering us with her crying." He said, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." But she came, fell at his feet, and said, "Sir, help me." He answered, "It is not right to take the children's food and toss it to their pet dogs." She said, "That is true, sir, but even the dogs eat the leftovers that fall from their master's table." Then Yah-Usha answered her, "Lady, you are a person of great trust. Let your desire be granted." And her daughter was healed at that very moment. Yah-Usha left there and went along the shore of Lake Kinneret. He climbed the hill and sat down, and large crowds came to him, bringing with them the lame, the blind, the crippled, the mute, and many others. They laid them at his feet, and he healed them. The people were amazed as they saw mute people speaking, crippled people cured, lame people walking, and blind people seeing. And they said a barakah to the God of Israel. Yah-Usha called his Talmidim to him and said, "I feel sorry for these people, because they have been with me 3 days, and now they have nothing to eat. I don't want to send them away hungry, because they might collapse on the way home. The Talmidim said to him, "Where will we find enough loaves of bread in this remote place to satisfy so big a crowd?" Yah-Usha asked them, "How many loaves do you have?" They said, "7 and a few fish." After telling the crowd to sit down on the ground, he took the 7 loaves and the fish, made a barakah, broke the loaves and gave them to the Talmidim, who gave them to the people. Everyone ate his fill, and they took 7 large baskets full of the leftover pieces. Those eating numbered 4,000 men, plus women and children. After sending the crowd away, he got in the boat and went off to the region of Magadan. Matthew chapter 16. Then some Parashim and Judukim came to trap Yah-Usha by asking him to show them a miraculous sign from heaven. But his response was, "When it is evening, you say fair weather ahead, because the sky is red. And in the morning you say storm today, because the sky is red and overcast. You know how to read the appearance of the sky, but you can't read the signs of the times. A wicked and adulterous generation is asking for a sign. It will certainly not be given a sign, except the sign of Jonah." With that he left them and went off. The Talmidim, in crossing to the other side of the lake, had forgotten to bring any bread. So when Yah-Usha said to them, "Watch out! Guard yourselves against the hametz of the Bereshim and Zedukim," they thought he said it because they hadn't brought bread. But Yah-Usha, aware of this, said, "Such little trust you have. Why are you talking with each other about not having bread? Don't you understand yet? Don't you remember the 5 loaves of the 5,000 and how many baskets you filled? Or the 7 loaves of the 4,000 and how many baskets you filled? How can you possibly think I was talking to you about bread? Guard yourselves from the hametz of the Bereshim and Zedukim." Then they understood. They were to guard themselves not from yeast for bread, but from the teaching of the Bereshim and Zedukim. When Yah-Usha came into the territory around Caesarea Philippi, he asked his Talmidim, "Who are people saying the Son of Man is?" They said, "Well, some say Yochanan the Immerser, others Eliyahu, still others Yirmeyahu, or one of the prophets." "But you," he said to them, "who do you say I am?" Shimon Kepha answered, "You are the Mashiach, the Son of the living God." Shemion bar Yochanan, Yah-Usha said to him, "How blessed you are, for no human being revealed this to you, no, it was my Father in heaven. I also tell you this, you are Kepha, and on this rock I will build my community, and the gates of Sheol will not overcome it. I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven. Whatever you prohibit on earth will be prohibited in heaven, and whatever you permit on earth will be permitted in heaven." Then he warned the Talmidim not to tell anyone that he was the Messiah. From that time on, Yah-Usha began making it clear to his Talmidim that he had to go to Jerusalem and endure much suffering at the hands of the elders, the head Kohanim, and the Torah teachers, and that he had to be put to death, but that on the 3rd day he had to be raised to life. Kepha took him aside and began rebuking him. "Heaven be merciful, Lord. By no means will this happen to you." But Yah-Usha turned his back on Kepha, saying, "Get behind me, Satan. You are an obstacle in my path because your thinking is from a human perspective, not from God's perspective." Then Yah-Usha told his Talmidim, "If anyone wants to come after me, let him say no to himself and take up his execution stake and keep following me. For whoever wants to save his own life will destroy it, but whoever destroys his life for my sake will find it. What good will it do someone if he gains the whole world but forfeits his life? Or what can a person give in exchange for his life? For the Son of Man will come in his Father's glory with his angels, and then he will repay everyone according to his conduct. Yes, I tell you that there are some people standing here who will not experience death until they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom." A little break. 10 minutes left. Maybe 2 more chapters. Matthew chapter 17. 6 days later, Yah-Usha took Kepha, Yaakov, and his brother Yochanan and led them up a high mountain privately. As they watched, he began to change form. His face shone like the sun, and his clothing became as white as light. Then they looked and saw Moshe and Eliyahu speaking with him. Kepha said to Yah-Usha, "It's good that we are here, Lord. I'll put up 3 shelters if you want. One for you, one for Moshe, and one for Eliyahu." While he was still speaking, a bright cloud enveloped them, and a voice from the cloud said, "This is my son, whom I love, with whom I am well pleased. Listen to him." Then when the Talmidim heard this, they were so frightened that they fell face down on the ground. But Yah-Usha came and touched them. "Get up," he said. "Don't be afraid." So they opened their eyes, looked up, and saw only Yah-Usha by himself. As they came down the mountain, Yah-Usha ordered them, "Don't tell anyone what you have seen until the Son of Man has been raised from the dead." The Talmidim asked him, "Then why do the Torah teachers say that Eliyahu must come first?" He answered, "On the one hand, Eliyahu is coming and will restore all things. On the other hand, I tell you that Eliyahu has come already, and people did not recognize him, but did whatever they pleased to him. In the same way, the Son of Man too is about to suffer at their hands." Then the Talmidim understood that he was talking to them about Yochanan the Immerser. As they came up to the crowd, a man approached Yah-Usha, kneeled down in front of him, and said, "Sir, have mercy on my son, because he is an epileptic and has such terrible fits that he often falls into the fire or into the water. I brought him to your Talmidim, but they couldn't heal him." Yah-Usha answered, "Perverted people without any trust. How long will I be with you? How long must I put up with you? Bring him here to me." Yah-Usha rebuked the demon, and he came out of the boy, so that from that moment he was healed. Then the Talmidim went to him privately and said, "Why couldn't we drive it out?" He said to them, "Because you have such little trust. Yes, I tell you that if you have trust as tiny as a mustard seed, you will be able to say to this mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it will move. Indeed, nothing will be impossible for you." As they were going about together in the Galilee, Yah-Usha said to them, "The Son of Man is about to be betrayed into the hands of people, who will put him to death, and on the third day he will be raised." And they were filled with sadness. When they came to Capharnaum, the collectors of the half shekel came to Kepha and said, "Doesn't your rabbi pay the temple tax?" "Of course he does," said Kepha. When he arrived home, Yah-Usha spoke first. "Shimeon, what is your opinion? The kings of the earth, from whom do they collect duties and taxes? From their sons or from others?" "From others," he answered. Then said Yah-Usha, "The sons are exempt. But to avoid offending them, go to the lake, throw out a line, and take the first fish you catch, open its mouth, and you will find a shekel. Take it and give it to them for me and for you." One more. Matthew chapter 18. At that moment, the Talmidim came to Yah-Usha and asked, "Who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven?" He called the child to him, stood him among them, and said, "Yes, I tell you that unless you change and become like little children, you won't even enter the kingdom of heaven. So the greatest in the kingdom is whoever makes himself as humble as this child. Whoever welcomes one such child in my name welcomes me, and whoever ensnares one of these little ones who trusts me, it will be better for him to have a millstone hung around his neck and be drowned in the open sea. Woe to the world because of snares, for there must be snares, but woe to the person who sets the snare. So if your hand or foot becomes a snare for you, cut it off and throw it away. Better that you should be maimed or crippled or obtain eternal life than keep both hands or both feet and be thrown into everlasting fire. And if your eye is a snare for you, gouge it out and fling it away. Better that you should be one-eyed and obtain eternal life than keep both eyes and be thrown into the fire of Gehinnom. See that you never despise one of these little ones, for I tell you that their angels in heaven are continually seeing the face of my Father in heaven. What's your opinion? What will somebody do who has 100 sheep and one of them wanders away? Won't he leave the 99 on the hillside and go off to find the stray? And if he happens to find it, yes, I tell you, he's happier over it than over the 99 that never strayed. Thus your Father in heaven does not want even one of these little ones to be lost. Moreover, if your brother commits a sin against you, go and show him his fault, but privately, just between the two of you. If he listens to you, you have won back your brother. If he doesn't listen, take one or two others with you, so that every accusation can be supported by the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. If he refuses to hear them, tell the congregation, and if he refuses to listen even to the congregation, treat him as you would a pagan or a tax collector. Yes, I tell you, people, that whatever you prohibit on earth will be prohibited in heaven, and whatever you permit on earth will be permitted in heaven. To repeat, I tell you that if two of you here on earth agree about anything people will ask, it will be for them from my Father, and it will be for them from my Father in heaven. For wherever two or three are assembled in my name, I am there with them." Then Kepha came up and said to him, "Rabbi, how often can my brother sin against me and I have to forgive him? As many as 7 times?" "No, not 7 times," answered Yah-Usha, "but 70 times 7. Because of this, the kingdom of heaven may be compared with a king who decided to settle accounts with his deputies. Right away they brought forward a man who owed him many millions, and since he couldn't pay, his master ordered that he, his wife, his children, and all his possessions be sold to pay the debt. But the servant fell down before him. "Be patient with me," he begged, "and I will pay back everything." So out of pity for him, the master let him go and forgave the debt. But as that servant was leaving, he came upon one of his fellow servants who owed him some tiny sum. He grabbed him and began to choke him, crying, "Pay back what you owe me." His fellow servant fell before him and begged, "Be patient with me and I will pay you back." But he refused. Instead, he had him thrown in jail until he should repay the debt. When the other servants saw what had happened, they were extremely distressed, and they went and told their master everything that had taken place. Then the master summoned his servant and said, "You wicked servant, I forgave you all that debt just because you begged me to do it. Shouldn't you have had pity on your fellow servant, just as I had pity on you?" And in anger his master turned him over to the jailers for punishment until he paid back everything he owed. This is how my heavenly Father will treat you, unless you each forgive your brother from your hearts. That's it. Thank you very much. Tomorrow, chapter 19. Thank you. I'm gonna do yoga pretty soon. Thank you.